Hi everyone, yeah, Terence Corrigan today. Terence is a former colleague of mine from the Democratic Alliance. He now works as a project manager for the Institute of Race Relations. In my opinion, Terence is one of the great minds of South Africa. He influenced a lot of thought process around policy, agriculture and economics, and I'm really privileged to have him here today. Terence, how's it going? You coping during lockdown?
I'm going crazy. Cabin fever. It's like, you've been. I'm back in the 80s. A business colleague of my late father's was sentenced to house arrest. I think I know how he felt, but at least he got to go out once a week to sweep the police station or whatever it was that he had to do.
Well, at least we have the internet,
that.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Tell me, I represent a couple of agricultural companies now, and we're discussing a lot of different ideas and strategy. You're one of the leading minds around agriculture in South Africa. Tell me, when it comes to the strategies that are put in place at the moment, what effects do this lockdown have on the farmer in a direct capacity? How does the farmer react to the situation? Does his workers informed? Is he able to continue production?
Well, yeah. Look, okay. You have to break this thing down. Yes, in general, agriculture is probably one of the less affected sectors of the economy, because your food supply is classified as an essential good. So producing and transporting food is permissible in terms of the lockdown regulations. In fact, it's encouraged. That being said, you have to bear in mind that not all farmers produce foodstuffs. So when it comes to something like flower production, horticulture, that's pretty much stopped. And I know that there are farmers that are having to throw away vast amounts of their stock now because they simply aren't permitted to sell them. Then you have the sort of transmission from your farm into the distribution chain, and here things are sort of iffy. There certainly at the beginning of the lockdown, I think actually right now, and with the extension, it's likely to accelerate. There was a great deal of demand for staples like rice and pasta, some canned goods, eggs, milk. So you're finding a lot of farmers are stretched to meet the demands of the retail outlets. They often have pricing agreements, but they are constrained by government's price controls, which I fear could be a long-term thing for us. And I don't think it's a very good one. They're also having to incur a large number of additional costs to keep their production lines going. So, for instance, if you, like many of the farmers that I talk to, have a workforce that is partly lives on site but partly commutes in, you have to arrange them into different shifts. You have to rejig your production process so people are distant from each other. All of these up the costs, and supermarkets aren't in a mood to negotiate anything, any kind of increases in that, and I don't think the public's in a mood to accept those sort of increases. So what you end up with is just one big mess, where yes, food is being produced, but there are bottlenecks, and I think that a lot of farmers are finding it very difficult to break even right now.
And
the other thing, of course,
yes, carry on.
Yep, is exports, and this, as I say, goes into the entire agricultural system. South Africa imports, for instance, all of its rice. South Africa is a major consumer of rice, but doesn't produce it. It also imports a great deal of its wheat. I think I'm not sure the exact number, but 70, maybe 90% of that.
Like Argentina, subsidized.
Right. But wheat requires irrigation, which is very which is difficult and costly. So we produce maize. So things like that are we're finding it difficult to get some of those products in, and also we find it very difficult to get a lot of the stuff out. where those trade those trade bonds have started to fray. We export we export quite a bit of meat, for instance, maize, and that's just not going anywhere. And high value fruits. So yes, we're producing enough for everyone, but not necessarily the things that everyone needs.
Of course.
So yeah.
And
so
if we take a look at that, I mean, in your piece in the Daily Friend, you discussed that from a food security standpoint, we might be a bit more resilient agricultural sector. But if we're talking about long term, and especially coming off rising input costs and the drought and that sort of thing, how sustainable is the industry if we're looking at this lockdown continuing?
Well, I think that just with pretty much everything else, yes, they could probably continue to produce, but if they're not making revenue to cover their costs, you're going to see issues with those input costs. You've also got 170 billion rand of farming debt,
yes,
which needs to be paid off. You've got consumers who are very stressed and may not be able to afford the goods that are made available. I mean, there's one guy who runs a manufacturing jeweler I spoke to, said, I work with my hands. If I'm not working, I'm not eating.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can take that and multiply it by like 40 million people. And if no one has money, it doesn't matter how much. Sooner or later you're going to start running into the problem where you're financing it out of your own pocket. A government, for instance, has set aside, I think, 1.2 billion, but that's only for very small farmers. That's not the backbone of our production system. I suspect that while we will weather the storm, one way or another, I think that you're going to find agriculture coming out extremely battered. I think a lot of let's say the sort of smaller farmers are possibly going to struggle to make it. The large commercial farmers, I think, are in a better position, but they also face enormous political hostility, and that's something else that's likely to start to rear its head, and it's also something that a lot of them are very, very concerned about.
And I mean, a lot of commercial farmers, their livelihoods are based on loans and the prediction on production and harvest quantities and yield and that sort of thing. So although a lot of people see them as these major corporations locked up in a piece of land, the reality is, and I've been in those situations myself, is it's very fickle in a way that 1 or 2 seasons that are really bad can affect your entire livelihood.
Well, think about this. We had the avian flu, about 3 years ago?
Yes.
We've had 2 years of drought, and we had the foot and mouth outbreak that pretty much stopped all cattle auctions or livestock auctions. That's just one blow on top of another. Plus,
exactly.
You
political hostility throughout the entire time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you have that, and agriculture is not a lucrative industry.
No, it's not.
But here's the thing that I really wish a lot of people could understand, that it's not really supposed to be. If you want to do things like host webinars and have an alternative healing practice, you need a secure supply of food. You need it to be cheap. That's because if everyone's running around picking grubs out of logs or whatever, they don't have the resources, as PJ O'Rourke said, to invent philosophy and maths and big clubs to hit cave bears over their head with. So that's kind of
course. But I mean, you mentioned importing wheat, and I mean, if we take a look at the Argentina situation, a lot of those commercial farmers are subsidized in a major way, and they're looked after because food security is a priority. I mean, a few years ago, when I was still a Farmers Weekly journalist, we had Congolese government officials coming to entice our farmers to go and farm for them, giving them major tracts of land at very good prices for their wheat and maize and that sort of thing, just to feed the people.
Yeah.
But we seem to have politicized agriculture in South Africa to an extent where it's policy or government or ideas before anything else. And then whatever comes afterwards, that's kind of by the wayside.
Well, I always say, you can tell the priority the government accords to something by looking at the money it dedicates. And I think, we put, I don't know, all things together, it's, like 6% or something. Actual, land reform, the issue that is supposedly going to make or break South Africa, the most important issue on the blah 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 blah. I mean, that's never attracted more at as much as 1% since 1994. It's
wow,
farce and joke. So no, agriculture, rural development, all of the stuff. It's a talking point. It's not a policy priority.
If we had to take a look at the long-term or short-term effects of this carrying on, your prediction as somebody that's really insightful in the sector, and I always say you're my beaming light of logic. If I have to say, what are the effects here for somebody sitting at home, doesn't really understand economics, doesn't really understand how the situation works in South Africa? Are we okay when it looks to the end of the year, long term? Are we going to be fine, or are we in a bit of trouble at the moment?
Okay. Let me break that down into two things. If we talk about agriculture specifically, I think we're sort of okay for the moment, but taking strain. I think one thing that South Africans are going to have to get used to is that while there may not be an overall shortage of food, some of the things you want are not going to be there. And this I think should shake up people's complacency.
Okay.
And it emphasizes the problem. Okay, maybe I'm still getting an income and whatever, I'm still able to work, but I go to the shops and I discover that I can't get pasta, or I can't get canned tomatoes to make spaghetti bolognese or whatever. This isn't intruding in your will. Now take that down to somebody who survives by hawking on an intersection, who has no money at all, but still has to feed a family. The problems pile up. As for the country as well, and I think we are going to see farmers driven out of business. Now, mention for instance the fuel price. Now we've seen a decline. And that's good. But remember that our the rand is now trading at close to 20 to the dollar.
Yes.
Plus, a lot of the pump price of fuel is what government takes in tax. So yes, while that helps, and also the Transvaal Landbou Unie was making a point about this, that many things that farmers need, like barbed wire, aren't considered essential goods now. So you can't,
exactly.
Yes, this is going to have consequences. I don't think there's any question. I don't think that, but I think that South Africa will be overall okay. But I think we are going to see a problem, and a growing problem, is that sort of household level food security.
Is there any sort of positivity out of the situation that something the government has done well?
Look, okay, I'm a great critic of this government, as some people have reminded me from time to time. But I do try and keep an open mind.
Of course.
I think with the information that it had and the set of circumstances it was dealing with, I think that the action it took was, it may be shown to have been extreme, but it was initially, at least, I think, quite gutsy. Ramaphosa was willing to show some element of leadership.
Yes.
I don't think there were any good options on the table, and he did what he thought. We do actually have some very good disaster management people, and I think that left to do their work, they can do it well. I know that what the strategy seems to be to try and buy time.
Yes.
And I understand that they're really anticipating that we're going to reach our kind of high point of this in September. Now it concerns me if
seems
the
like they're
idea
trying
is
to
that,
mitigate a lot of those long-term
yeah,
effects by doing it now.
yeah. So from a health point of view, I think give them credit. I think that they have, some of the interim measures have been fairly encouraging.